AI isn't some far-off future thing anymore. It's actually here right now, and it's quietly reshaping our lives in some pretty powerful ways. But when you get past the big headlines, what does that really mean for us? Like today.
Exactly.
So today we're going to explore some of those actual tangible shifts AI is bringing. We're talking about how we connect with people, how we work, even down to how our whole digital world gets its power.
It's kind of amazing when you stop and think about how deeply woven it already is into, well, everything, often in ways we don't even notice.
Right.
Yeah, and we've gathered some really insightful reports, some recent announcements, too, to help us make sense of it. Our goal today is really to uncover some surprising facts, connect a few dots, maybe, on how AI is already changing things and, what that might mean for you listening right now as we all try to figure this out.
Okay, let's start somewhere really personal then. Relationships. I mean, we know AI can write poems, make music, create art, but feelings,
Yeah.
companionship, even, dare I say, romance.
That's a huge question, isn't it? And some recent survey findings from the Institute for Family Studies and YouGov, they give us some genuinely eye-opening glimpses. Get this. The data shows that a pretty significant number, about 1 in 4 young adults under 40, they actually believe AI partners could potentially replace real-life romantic relationships.
Wow, 1 in 4. That's quite a lot.
It is. It signals a really profound shift in how people are thinking about connection.
So are people actually doing this? Is this happening now, or is it more like, yeah, I could see that happening someday?
Well, it's starting. The numbers are quite telling. Right now, about 1% of young Americans say they already have an AI friend.
Okay, 1% sounds small maybe, but
But it's a real starting point,
Yeah.
for potentially a whole new social trend. And what's maybe more significant is that 10%, a much larger group, are open to the idea of an AI friend. And if you look at young adults who aren't married or living with someone, 7% say they're open to an AI romantic partnership. So for some, it's definitely moved beyond just theory.
Okay, so it's not just like casual chatting. Are we seeing examples where AI is playing a more emotionally significant role, people turning to it for actual support?
Oh, absolutely. There was research looking at, I think, over 1 million ChatGPT interaction logs, and
Yeah.
it found that sexual role-playing is actually the second most common use, right after creative writing.
Really? Second most common?
Yeah. And then you look at platforms like Character.ai. They have this psychologist bot. It's received over 95 million messages from users.
95 million.
95 million. That's not just people messing around. It shows this really clear, powerful desire for connection, for empathy, maybe support, even if it's coming from, a simulated intelligence. It really points to an emerging need, I think.
95 million messages. And that 1 in 4 number. It's kind of staggering. So who is it that's embracing this? Is it a specific group, or is it more widespread? What do the demographics tell us?
Well, the demographics paint a really interesting picture. It gets kind of complex, actually. For instance, men seem more open to AI friendships than women. It was about 13% versus 9%. And that pattern holds for romance, too. 28% of young men think AI could replace real romance, compared to 22% of young women. So there's a noticeable gender difference there.
Okay, that's interesting. What about other things like political views or how much time people spend online? Does that make a difference?
It seems to. Yeah. Liberals showed a bit more openness to AI friends, 14% versus 9% for conservatives. And maybe less surprisingly, young adults who spend a lot of time online, like more than 6 hours a day outside of work or school, they're significantly more open, 16% versus 9% for those online less. So yeah, a more digitally immersed life seems linked to this openness.
You said it gets complex. Are there socioeconomic factors involved too? Because that could hint at some deeper stuff happening in society.
Intriguingly, yes. Young adults with lower incomes and less education are actually more likely to be open to AI romance.
Really? Even though...
Right, even though they're also more likely to say they fear how AI will affect society in general. It's this kind of paradox.
Huh. Why do you think that is?
Well, it raises big questions, doesn't it? Maybe AI is sort of stepping into a gap where perhaps traditional support networks or even just human connections are becoming harder to find or maintain for some people.
So it becomes less of a choice and more like filling a need.
It could be. It suggests AI might be becoming potentially almost a necessary tool for emotional well-being for certain groups, especially maybe those feeling more isolated in our, current social landscape.
That's quite profound. More fear overall, but more openness personally. Like the immediate need overrides the bigger worry.
Exactly. And maybe the most striking finding was around pornography use. Heavy porn users emerged as the group most open to both AI friendships and AI romantic partners. They're actually twice as likely as people who rarely or never watch porn to be open to an AI romance.
Twice as likely.
Yeah. Over a third, 35% of heavy porn users think AI partners could replace the real thing. Compare that to just 20% of those who rarely watch porn. And interestingly, this group was the only one surveyed where less than half had negative views about having an AI friend.
Is there a connection to anything else there? Like loneliness?
Well, the researchers did note that frequent porn users are also more likely to report experiencing loneliness and depression. So that could be a big factor. Perhaps AI feels like I don't know, a safer, less judgmental space for interaction for them.
So putting this all together, what does it mean for human connection down the road? Is this just a small trend, something on the fringes, or is this the start of something, well, much bigger? Can you really imagine a world where your best friend isn't human?
Well, look, most young adults still say they aren't comfortable with an AI companion. That's important. But there's a pretty big chunk, 32% for friendships, 22% for romance, who are kind of on the fence or just unsure.
The unsure group.
Exactly. And that unsure group, that represents a huge potential for growth in the future. It really suggests we might just be seeing the very, very beginning of a much larger social change. That 1% who already have an AI friend, that might just be the tiny seed of a profound shift in how we relate to each other and, well, to technology. Moving towards a world where human AI emotional bonds are maybe more common.
It really challenges our basic ideas of what companionship even means, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Okay, so while AI is sort of subtly weaving its way into our personal lives, redefining connection, it's also making some very overt changes in our professional lives. The big question there is AI going to be our new coworker, or is it coming for our jobs?
Right. And the economic side of this is just enormous. There's
Oh,
new research from Morgan Stanley and Rohan Paul highlighted this recently, predicting that AI adoption could save corporate America almost $1 trillion a year.
Nearly $1 trillion. That's astronomical. Where do those savings actually come from? What does it mean for workers?
Well, the idea is that things like agentic AI, these autonomous systems that can just figure out and do tasks on their own, plus humanoid robots, they could slash annual operating costs for, say, S&P 500 companies by about $920 billion.
Oh,
Primarily by automating routine tasks and, frankly, shrinking payrolls through those efficiencies. If it works out, they estimate it could add something like $13 to $16 trillion in market value.
trillion with a T.
Trillion with a T. And the report suggests that 90% of jobs will be touched in some way, either automated or augmented by AI, the savings. They're expected to come mostly from, well, reduced hiring, letting people go through attrition, and automating those knowledge tasks that are important but repetitive, not necessarily mass layoffs everywhere, but definitely reshaping the workforce.
Okay, 90% of jobs touched, nearly $1 trillion saved. But this is where it gets really critical, right? Who specifically is feeling this impact right now? Is it spread evenly, or are some groups feeling it more? And thinking longer term, what about things like training new people if those entry-level jobs shrink?
That's exactly the right question. And there's a really solid 57-page report from Stanford University, also flagged by Rohan Paul, that gives us some hard answers. Their headline was basically, "The shift has started." And it points very clearly to one group: entry-level workers, specifically those aged about 22 to 25, in jobs that are highly exposed to AI. They're seeing real drops in employment.
Real drops. How much?
We're talking about a 13% relative decline for that group, meaning while older workers in similar fields or people in less exposed roles are still seeing job growth, this specific young cohort is falling behind. It's not hitting everyone the same way at all.
And the training pipeline concern.
That's a huge potential issue, yes. If those traditional entry points into professions start to dry up, where does the next generation of senior talent come from? It could absolutely stifle innovation and expertise development years down the line. It's a real risk.
So it's definitely not just a general slowdown then, it's targeted.
Yeah.
Can you give us some examples? What kind of jobs are we talking about?
Sure. Think about roles like software developers or customer service reps. For the 22 to 25 age group in those jobs, hiring headcount has dropped significantly since late 2022. Software developers, for instance, down maybe 20% from their peak.
But older workers in the same fields are okay.
That's what the data shows, yeah. Their numbers are actually rising in many cases. The thinking is that AI is currently better at replacing what they call codified knowledge.
Codified knowledge.
Yeah, like the structured, learnable stuff that junior folks often handle, basic coding tasks, answering common questions using a script, that kind of thing. It's less good, right now anyway, at replacing the tacit knowledge, the intuition, the complex problem solving, the experience that senior people bring. So AI is taking over the more foundational, rule-based work first.
Okay, that distinction makes a lot of sense. Codified versus tacit. So this really changes the game for career paths, doesn't it? What does entry level even look like going forward? Will people need totally different skills right out of the gate?
It certainly could mean that, yeah. The Stanford study also talked about the difference between AI use that's automative, where it replaces tasks and junior jobs tend to fall, and AI that's augmentative,
Augmentative.
where AI assists workers, maybe takes over the boring stuff, freeing up the junior person to do more complex or creative work that actually uses their human skills. In those cases, junior employment might stay flat or even go up. So how companies use AI makes a massive difference.
That's crucial. It's not just the tech, but the implementation.
Exactly. And interestingly, wages don't seem to be dropping much yet. Instead, companies seem to be adjusting by just hiring fewer new people at that entry level.
Ah, so the overall economy might look okay on the surface.
Right, while certain pathways feel really squeezed, and these trends, they really take off after 2022, which lines up perfectly with when generative AI tools like ChatGPT became widely available. So the link seems pretty direct. It definitely suggests adaptability and higher level thinking skills are going to be even more vital going forward.
Okay, so AI is changing how we connect, how we work.
Mm-hmm.
But all this computation, right? All the data processing, these massive models, that takes an incredible amount of electricity. It's not just software. It's a huge physical infrastructure challenge. What's actually going to power this AI future? Is our grid even ready?
That is such a critical point, and honestly, it's already a massive focus for the big tech companies because the energy needs are just staggering.
How staggering are we talking?
Well, just to give you an idea, training one single large AI model can use as much electricity as several hundred homes consume over an entire year. And we're seeing an explosion in the number of these models being trained and run constantly.
Wow.
So, yeah, tech giants are making big moves. There was a recent report, I think Engadget covered it, about Google announcing the site for its first nuclear reactor in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
Wait, Google is building a nuclear reactor for its data centers.
Well, they're partnering. It's part of a deal they made in 2024 with this startup called Kairos Power. It involves this plant called Hermes 2.
Okay, so what does that deal look like?
It's a long-term purchase agreement with the Tennessee Valley Authority, the TVA. Kairos builds and runs the reactor, TVA manages the power, and Google buys 50 megawatts of that power specifically for its data centers nearby.
50 megawatts. Is that a lot?
It's significant for a single facility, but here's the thing. This is just the first step. It's part of a much larger 500 megawatt deal involving multiple small modular reactors, SMRs. Yeah, small modular reactors. They're these kind of compact, factory-built nuclear reactors, supposedly faster and more flexible to build than the huge traditional plants. This whole bigger deal is supposed to be fully online by 2035, with this first Hermes 2 plant starting around 2030.
This feels like more than just a company buying power, though. It feels like a fundamental shift in how energy gets produced and used, driven by AI's needs. Could AI actually be pushing us into a new nuclear age?
It really could be a catalyst, yeah.
Right.
I mean, this Google deal, it's the first time ever a corporation has signed up to buy power directly from these new SMRs. That sets a huge precedent.
Or for it, right?
The CEO of the TVA, Don Moll, basically said as much. He called nuclear the bedrock of the future of energy security. And he pointed out that having a big player like Google step in early helps cover the costs and frankly the risks of getting these first-of-a-kind nuclear projects off the ground. That ultimately benefits everyone, not just Google. It really signals that meeting AI's energy appetite is going to require some bold, large-scale thinking, and nuclear seems to be a big part of that calculation.
And it's not just the electricity, is it? When you think about these huge data centers, the brains of AI, what else do they consume? I mean, cooling them must take enormous amounts of water, right?
Yeah.
What are the sort of hidden resource demands here?
You're absolutely right to bring that up. It's often overlooked. Beyond just the raw power, the water needed for cooling these massive data centers is significant. huge amounts of fresh water, often in places that might already be facing water shortages.
Right.
Then there's the hardware itself, all the sophisticated chips, the servers, the networking gear that requires rare earth minerals, other raw materials. Mining those has its own environmental footprint.
Not just the land they sit on.
And the physical land, exactly. So you've got this increasing demand for energy, water, minerals, land, all driven by AI's expansion. This could easily lead to more competition for these critical resources, affecting supply chains, maybe even international relations down the line. It really makes you ask, are we actually prepared to manage the full environmental and geopolitical cost of powering this AI revolution?
It's a lot to take in. We've covered some really incredible ground today, from AI becoming this surprisingly intimate presence in our relationships to shaking up the job market in very specific ways, and now seeing how it's literally reshaping our energy landscape. It's clear AI is just this massive force of change.
It really is. And these findings, they strongly suggest AI isn't just, a set of tools we use. It's more like an evolving phenomenon that's reshaping society from the inside out. From our most personal feelings right up to global economics, we're really just witnessing the start of some very deep shifts, I think.
So, as you're listening and thinking about all this, considering these trends, we've looked at AI companions, AI therapists potentially, these very targeted job impacts on younger workers, the push towards new energy sources like nuclear. What part of our lives, what aspect of being human do you think will be the most fundamentally changed by AI over the next 10 years? And maybe more importantly, are we really ready for how fast and how profoundly these changes might happen? Lots to think about. Thank you for joining us for this exploration today. Keep those questions turning over in your mind, and we'll catch you next time for more insights.